Ladies and gentlemen, I've decided to make this video because of another video that is trending online. This video is by Dr. Fred Okeng'o Matiangi. Dr. Fred Okeng'o Matiangi has just resigned from his position at the UN in the United States, and he has returned to Kenya to concentrate on his candidature for the presidency, for Kenya's president in 2027. So Dr. Okeng'o Matiangi is not just an ordinary Kenyan. He is, in fact, a former minister, or rather chief minister, in charge of internal security in Kenya. Dr. Matiangi was made by an executive order, essentially the Prime Minister of Kenya, by the former President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Yes, for those who can recall, the executive order, I believe it was of 2017 or 18, 2018. It was executive order number 1 that displaced the roles that are supposedly to be played by the deputy president then, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. So Dr. Okeng'o Matiangi assumed those roles. Dr. Okeng'o Matiangi's position enabled him to know a lot about Kenya's security. And therefore, recently he made a suggestion that we need to form a commission of inquiry where the truth about the murders of a lot of Kenya's political players was going to be laid bare. And because of that video, I've decided to make this one to actually not just address him, but address Kenya as a whole. Because my position is that Kenya has come from a very, very long and dark history. Yes, we fought for independence, and yes, we killed our colonialists. We killed them. We fought with them vicious fights in order for them to give us independence. But it is true that the fight for political position has also eliminated some of us. Some of us have used elimination, assassination, in order to gain political power. And so Fred Okeng'o Matiangi is suggesting that we should form a commission of inquiry to know or to lay bare who did these vicious crimes is something we need to pay attention to. But why am I making this video? First of all, let's review just a few of the political players that have been eliminated. Yes, there has been many. We can start all the way back to the days of Tom Mboya, J.M. Kariuki. There's many who have died under questionable circumstances. But I just want us to start not so far ago. I think 2003 is not too far ago. So what happened in 2003? There is this gentleman who was actually a member of parliament. His name was Dr. Odhiambo Mbai. Dr. Odhiambo Mbai was the chairman of the select committee that was agreed by different warring sides of the political divide to review the constitution. And he was coming up with the constitution that was called the Bomas Draft. That Bomas Draft constitution was essentially championing devolution. At the time, in 2003, President Emilio Mwai Kibaki had just been elected. And once again, there is also betrayal because he had been elected with the help of Raila Amolo Odinga to oust Moi in 2002. That was successful. But then differences started coming. I believe Kibaki used the principle of eliminating or suppressing the kingmakers and the kings in waiting by reneging on the memorandum of understanding whereby he was supposed to be made prime minister. In the process, the championing for, or the call for change the constitution came, and what was the gist of that constitution? It was devolution. Devolution was meaning devolve power to the counties or to the rest of the areas in Kenya. In that process, somebody decided to eliminate Dr. Odhiambo Mbai. It was such a gruesome murder because the killers got into his house at night and shot him to death in front of his family. There was investigation. It was all known it was an assassination, but the killers were never brought to book, sadly. So that was in 2003. Now we can go to, I believe, 2006. In 2006, rather 2016, we have another assassination. This one was of Jacob Juma. Jacob Juma was an anti-corruption activist. He had pursued certain elements regarding corruption at that time. And he was assassinated along Ngong Road. Jacob Juma was pursuing the issue of Eurobond. And Eurobond was a scam, or was it a white elephant? I don't know what you want to call it, and you can read more about it. But there was corruption involved, and Jacob Juma wanted to make it discoverable who are the players in that corruption scandal. So in 2016, Jacob Juma was assassinated. To silence him, perhaps? The killers were never found. Who was president during Jacob Juma's assassination? It was Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and William Samoei Ruto. This was after we got our 2010 constitution. So, to review, during Kibaki's time, we lost who? Dr. Odhiambo Mbai, through assassination. We get our constitution in 2010. In 2016, we lose Jacob Juma via another assassination. Gunshots. Let's move on. After 2016, we go to 2017. In 2017, the country was gearing for a second election of the 2010 constitution. The second election pitched again Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta with his running mate, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. He wasn't a doctor then. Versus Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. And this time, there was a call for the election to be transparent, to be tamper-proof, to be verifiable, and to be ran with technology whereby the results are streamed and known from wherever they're being conducted, from the constituency. The chairman of the Electoral Commission was Wafula Chebukati. And there was this gentleman called Chris Msando. Chris Msando was the ICT expert. Chris Msando devised a way whereby, in order to sign into the Electoral Commission database or computer system, biometrics needed to be used. And one of those biometrics was the thumb, your fingerprints. So Chris Msando had made it watertight where nobody was going to access the records. And he came to a press conference where he actually stated it. He said, for anybody to access the IEBC records, they would have to get his thumb. Well, in a few days or a few weeks, he was assassinated. There is rumor that his body was mutilated. There is rumor that his thumb was actually missing. Chris Msando was butchered in 2017, right before the elections. I believe it was in July 29th to be specific. But during that time, the election campaigns were fever pitch. So Chris Msando was killed because of his role in the IEBC. The killers of Chris Msando have never been known. Chris Msando's wife said, follow them. May the killers of her husband never know peace. Right after that election, Uhuru and Ruto fell apart. The truth of the matter is that Uhuru's second term was never peaceful. The truth of the matter is that Ruto's second term as deputy president was not smooth. He was almost displaced when Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta appointed Fred Matiangi. February 2020, there is another political, you may call it political, maybe not, but it was an assassination. Initially, it was thought it was suicide, but the investigation showed that it was actually a homicide. This is the homicide of a police sergeant. I believe he was a sergeant. He was killed in his house. His name was Kenei, Sergeant Kipyegon Kenei. So why was Sergeant Kipyegon Kenei assassinated, and who is he? Well, he was a sergeant in the police and he was a whistleblower. He was talking about weapons. Weapons worth over $360 million. There was a syndicate, there was a scandal about weapons. And this involved perhaps the office of the deputy president. Why did the deputy president, why was he involved in a scandal of $360 million regarding weapons when he and the president were having issues? Remember the story about the deep state. Who had the deep state and who was the state? You can answer that question when it comes to the 2022 election, because it was said Raila had the deep state with Uhuru, but it was proved that they didn't. They had the state, and the deep state was with Ruto that won the elections. But let's come to Kenei. Kenei was killed. He was found with a gunshot wound in his head. It was said it was self-inflicted, but later investigation showed that it wasn't. It was actually a homicide. The circumstances about this suicide or assassination, as it was concluded, have never been quite discovered or explored because the case is still in court. Several people were arrested and they're still standing trial to this day. There is one, Mohammed Ibrahim Ali, Mohammed Noor, so to speak. He was the chief administrative secretary in the Ministry of Interior. He was arrested. There's another one, Kenei Oyugi, former head of the Directorate of Immigration Services. He was also arrested and he's being tried. Another one is Raphael Nyakundi, police officer in the police service. He was arrested. And then there is another one, Sami Rotich, also another police officer. These people were arrested and they were charged with conspiracy to commit murder and accessory after the fact. This case, this trial, believe it or not, since 2020 is still going on. It has not been solved. Then here we come. In March 2020 again, remember February Kenei dies, and then in March there is another political assassination. This time of a guy who is not so well known. His name is Paul Owulu, but he was commonly known as GPO. Why was GPO assassinated along his buddy, Kinara, John Muguna Kinara? These two, they were activists. They were activists and they were championing an issue that rubbed some people the wrong way. His death coincided with heightened tensions around Kenya, and it was regarding the digital surveillance practices and activism targeting him because of the Huduma number. Now, if you know about Huduma number, you can go ahead and find out about it, but it was something that the government was bringing to tax people. And Owulu GPO and his buddy Kinara, they were in the ICT area and they were going to give more information about what Huduma number was indeed intended for, and it rubbed some people the wrong way and they were assassinated. Their killers have never been known to this date. Some of these murders that I'm talking about, even Amnesty International has advocated for the state to give more information. The murder actually of Chris Msando even drew FBI into Kenya. The FBI investigated the murder of Chris Msando and their report has never been released. So these murders of Owulu GPO and John Muguna Kinara, the murder of Chris Msando, the murder of Kenei, the murder of Mumbai has never been resolved. This is Kenya. Commission of inquiries used to be formed by the former president, Daniel Arap Moi, and they never really quite ended with a solution. So when Fred Okeng'o Matiangi, who was the commissioner, or rather the minister in charge of internal security, suggests that we make another commission of inquiry to find out who killed who, when he himself was the Minister for Internal Security, it begs the question, will it deliver anything? What did you know and when did you know it? And if you knew it when you had the power, why didn't you institute a mechanism to give us the answers that we've been waiting for? The answers that we've been yearning for. I want to take us back to a time when Kenya was divided more than it has been now. This was the time right before the 2008 general election. Raila was running against Mwai Kibaki. Mwai Kibaki was running for office for the second term. Raila Odinga was opposing him. William Ruto was with Raila in a movement called Orange Democratic Movement. Mwai Kibaki was with his party. I don't know whether, I can't remember whether it was TNA. And he was defending his presidency. And the political tension went very high, such that when the election results started streaming, Raila was ahead. The government didn't like that the newspapers were streaming live results of Raila being ahead by almost 500,000 votes. They ordered the end of live streaming, and when they ordered that, when the electricity came back, it showed that Kibaki was now ahead by about the same margin. Guess what it caused? Uproar, disbelief, anger, and brother killed brother. Sister was chased and raped and killed. Children were left as orphans. During that time, in order to realize peace, we had to get external help. The warring factions agreed to a mediation, and therefore we allowed one prominent African who was a Secretary General of the United Nations, former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, and others. They came to Kenya, including Krigler, including Kikwete. They came to Kenya and helped to restore peace by sitting down these politicians and telling them to come together. And when they came together, guess what? They found peace. They agreed to a path for another constitution. They agreed to settle the displaced. They agreed on a framework to govern, whereby they shared power 50-50 in an accord that was outside the constitution, that allowed for the formation of prime minister that was given to Raila Odinga, and Kibaki remained with the executive president. And then that formatted the 2010 constitution, which now came because the fracas were at the end of 2017, 2007 and 2008. So by 2010, we got the new constitution. One thing that was never agreed to, or rather was agreed to but has never been met, was the formation of a truth, justice, and reconciliation. Real truth, justice, and reconciliation. And I dare add, reparations. So, why was that missed, and why is it important? Because all these commissions, all these investigations, all these trials regarding the Kenyan people who have been assassinated has never yielded anything. And therefore, this truth, justice, and reconciliation may have been the only hope for us to have the truth come out. But it was never done. And so, I'm of the opinion that Fred Okeng'o Matiangi, instead of asking for commissions, to just come out, come to the press, let the press form this platform, let people who can mediate doesn't even have to be the church, because the church is actually complicit. The church is the one that has been given money by the people who need to be investigated. So it's very difficult for the church to do what? To actually mediate this. This needs to be mediated by just ordinary Kenyans who are apolitical. And Fred Okeng'o Matiangi, you can start by just coming to the press and telling the truth about what you knew, when you knew it, and what did you do. That is how it's gonna be. So, Fred Okeng'o Matiangi, just come out. Come out. Come out and tell the truth. What happened during your time? What do you know that in your position as the Minister of Internal Security transpired? What do you know? Let me start you by playing for you this song. Just as I am, without one plea, but thy blood was shed for me, and that thou bids me come to me, O Lamb of God, I come, I come. Umemwaga damu yako, nawe ulivyo nita Bwana Yesu, naja, naja. Just I am and waiting not to rid myself of one dark blot, to thee whose blood can cleanse each spot. O Lamb of God, I come. Okeng'o, I come. Langu kujiosha, roho yangu nisamehe dhambi zangu, Bwana Yesu, naja. Okeng'o, kuja. And so, Fred Okeng'o Matiangi, I invite you, just come as you are and tell us the truth.